Greetings, enthusiasts of the unusual and historical. Strap in, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare yourselves for a wild ride through the annals of history. We're about to rocket back to 1930s Australia and plunge into a narrative so strange and eccentric, you might think we're pulling your leg. But as they say, truth is often weirder than fiction, and this story is the living proof. We're about to recount the most outlandishly extraordinary chapter in Australian history, the uproarious saga of the Great Emu War. Picture this. The year is 1932 and the world is in the grip of the Great Depression. Economic woes spread like wildfire, and Australia is no exception. Amid this financial turmoil, an adversary of the most unexpected sort makes its presence felt in Western Australia. Prepare yourselves for the grand entrance of our feathery foes, the emus. Our story unfolds against the backdrop of the expansive golden wheat fields of Western Australia. Here, thousands of emus standing as tall as 6 feet have stumbled upon a paradise of sorts. Driven by drought and survival instincts, they descend upon the crops, causing untold havoc. These aren't your everyday garden variety birds. Oh no, they are flightless, audacious, and somewhat oblivious to the pandemonium they're causing. These emus are feasting on the crops and trampling what they don't consume. For the already troubled farmers battling the Great Economic Depression, this bird-induced chaos was like adding a seagull squawking cacophonously to their mounting woes. As the relentless avian onslaught continues, it quickly becomes apparent to the farmers that they are playing in a league where they don't even know the rules. These aren't your garden variety pests that can be shooed away with a scarecrow or a well-aimed rock. No, these are emus, towering, fearless, and ravenous birds, causing a ruckus that could rival a heavy metal concert. So what do you do in such an extraordinary predicament? When you are besieged by a flock of relentless birds, each as tall as a pro basketball player and with an appetite to match, where on earth do you turn? Do you call the exterminator? Do you try to negotiate a peace treaty with the avian invaders? Well, dear listeners, in a move that could only be born out of sheer desperation, or perhaps a unique sense of humor that one can only attribute to the Aussies, they did the unthinkable. They called the military. And here, my friends, is where our tale veers off the highway of normality and ventures into the uncharted backroads of the bizarre. Indeed, you heard that right. The Australian government, in an act of desperation, or perhaps a moment of comedic genius, who can tell, declared war on the emus. Now try to picture this for a moment, won't you? A country's military, with all its might and firepower, mobilized against a flock of flightless birds. It's an image so absurd, it's almost beautiful in its absurdity. But we all know life often has a way of outdoing fiction. What ensued was a spectacle that could outshine any kaiju movie. Yes, we're talking about a full-blown war here, complete with military tactics, machine guns, and a foe that could give Godzilla a run for its money. At the helm of this unique mission was Major G.P.W. Meredith of the 7th Heavy Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery. Armed to the teeth with 2 Lewis guns, 10,000 rounds of ammunition, and a hand-picked group of men, they embarked on a mission that would forever etch their names into history. I mean, who wouldn't want to be remembered as the valiant soldiers who fought against an army of oversized turkeys? The first face-off with the enemy occurred on November 2nd, 1932. The soldiers, brimming with optimism and perhaps underestimating their foe, were taken aback. The emus scattered at the sound of gunfire, their towering bodies displaying surprising agility. During that first encounter, the troops managed to eliminate only a dozen or so emus, while the rest dissolved into the vastness of the fields. Perhaps it was the sheer size of the emus, or their unexpected speed, or maybe the way they scattered in all directions like a well-practiced flash mob. But whatever the reason, the soldiers found their bullets making little impact on the feathered frenzy. Their confidence wavered as the realization hit. This wasn't going to be as easy as they had thought. Their determination, however, did not wane. They had a job to do, and they were not about to be thwarted by a bunch of birds, no matter how big and fast they were. They chalked out new strategies, adjusted their aim, and loaded their guns, ready for round 2. A few days later, the men orchestrated a second ambush near a local dam, their spirits undeterred by the initial setback. This time they had a modicum of success, managing to down about 50 of their feathered foes. But an army of men armed with Lewis guns celebrating the defeat of 50 birds while thousands more ran amok in the wheat fields kind of felt like trying to drain a swimming pool with a teaspoon. In the face of such an immense task, the soldiers couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. Each day brought with it new challenges, and each night bore witness to their growing respect for these seemingly simple-minded creatures. They were a force to be reckoned with, these emus, and as the soldiers would soon find out, they were not to be underestimated. As weeks turned into months, the soldiers gradually realized that this was no ordinary mission. The emus proved to be far more resilient and crafty than anyone could have anticipated. They learned to scatter at the sound of gunfire, making it increasingly difficult for the soldiers to significantly reduce their numbers. It's like the emus were in a hardcore boot camp, becoming agile, war-hardened veterans overnight. Major G.P.W. Meredith, the seasoned military man that he was, found himself in an unusual quagmire with these birds. His growing respect for his feathered foes became evident when he made a remark that would be etched in history, famously stating, "If we had a military division with the bullet-carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world." My apologies for the dodgy accent there, but his words perfectly encapsulated the bizarre and unexpected challenges that soldiers faced during this conflict. Perhaps you should have asked the emus to join forces, eh? As December rolled in, the military's best efforts had culminated in the demise of only about 1,000 emus. The operation wasn't just proving ineffective, it was also draining the government's resources, particularly ammunition. The emus, it seemed, were more bulletproof than anticipated. At this rate, the military was on track to winning the most Pyrrhic of victories. Public sentiment began to shift against the war. Newspapers, in a move that added another layer of humor to the absurdity, dubbed the conflict the Emu War. The growing criticism and negative press eventually forced the Australian government's hand, prompting them to withdraw the military. And just like that, the Great Emu War came to an end, with the emus, in a twist that's as ironic as it is hilarious, emerging as the unexpected victors. Even as the dust settled on the battlefield and the echoes of gunfire faded, the emu problem remained. The war may have ended, but the emus didn't get the memo. They continued to descend on the wheat fields, seemingly uncaring of the human struggle. In a move that retrospectively appears more sensible than declaring all-out war on the birds, the government introduced a bounty system. Offering a reward for each emu brought in, they transformed the public into a force of willing emu wranglers. This new strategy turned out to be far more effective. The emu population began to dwindle and the farmers finally got a chance to breathe a sigh of relief. However, amidst this sea of change, a legend began to emerge, adding a layer of mystery and intrigue to our tale. In the theater of war, one character had managed to steal the spotlight, a bird known as the Ghost of the Emu War. This elusive creature was rumored to have been seen in the most intense area of conflict, always evading the soldiers' gunfire. It was said that the Ghost was no ordinary emu, but the de facto leader of the avian insurgency. Some even claimed that it was this bird who taught the others how to outsmart the humans. And while the truth of these claims is debatable, they added a certain romantic charm to the whole situation. The idea of a single bird leading a rebellion against human invaders, surviving the war, and then disappearing into the wild is pretty much the stuff of legends. In the immediate aftermath of the war, the bounty system continued to keep the emu population in check. The farmers gradually regained their footing, the fields flourished once more, and the great memories of the war began to recede into the background. However, the story of the Great Emu War continues to enthrall us, serving as a testament to life's unpredictability and the unyielding spirit of all creatures, both big and small. So there it is, the bewildering, chucklesome saga of the Great Emu War, where bullets flew, feathers were ruffled, and history was made in the most unexpected of ways. It's a tale that continues to tickle our funny bones while making us ponder on the peculiarities of life. Whether it's a testament to human resilience or a tribute to the unyielding spirit of emus, the Great Emu War remains as an extraordinary chapter in Australian history. It's a tale that truly encapsulates the adage that sometimes reality is stranger than fiction. And in the end, isn't that what makes history so fascinating?